So today is Wednesday, the 17th of September 2025. We're at the London Muslim Centre library. The time is 11:15, and I'm with Zakya Hussain. So
Yes.
Zakya, could you please tell me your full name
Sure.
and where you were born and raised?
Sure. My name is Zakya Hussain. I was born in Walsall and raised in London. So in terms of my upbringing, it's mostly been in London. So I'm a Londoner through and through.
And can you tell me if there were any sort of values or influences in your bringing up that you feel have shaped the person that you are today?
My father, subhanAllah, in terms of resilience, service to people, that has been the utmost embedded into our home life, and challenges. Life is a challenge, and from an Islamic perspective, our values, so it's been embedded into my life.
And in terms of your professional background and tell me a little bit about your professional background before you joined Muslim Aid.
So basically, I did a degree in BA in Modern European Studies with a language which is Spanish. I went in to do PGCE, but unfortunately due to ill health, I had to drop PGCE and went in to do various roles, trying to find my ground in terms of what I actually wanted to do. And I landed myself at Muslim Aid as a volunteer. So that's the journey from 2000 actually.
Right.
So from 2000, I worked as a casual. I came during Ramadan. Would you like to work for Muslim Aid? And actually, my brother was very envious because he'd always wanted to work for Muslim Aid as a volunteer, but unfortunately, for some reason, he never landed himself at Muslim Aid, but I did, and got very envious. And how did you land yourself at Muslim Aid? I said, just one of those things, subhanAllah. So came as a volunteer, and then I actually found the environment very forthcoming for me in terms of very comfortable because wearing hijab. I thought, you know what, it's a nice place to work in. I wonder, it's a future here, subhanAllah. And then I went on to do Hajj. And then from Hajj, I actually made a special dua that Allah, please, if I was to land in a job that I can practice my deen and I'm comfortable, especially being a female. And when I came back from Hajj, I got a phone call to say, Zakya, will you be interested in working for Muslim Aid? Because one of the sisters unfortunately had to leave. Will you like to step in? And that was my journey for Muslim Aid from 2001. Yeah.
Wow, that's a beautiful dua, and look where you are now.
And you couldn't turn it down. So I thought, I've got a phone call, I cannot turn this down because Allah is accepting my prayers. Yeah.
So you started in 2000 as a volunteer, and what was your first role then?
First role was in donations, which is now known as Supported Relations Department, and it was literally processing donations. And it was a team of 5 of us, so we were in Camden Town back then. A team of 5, 4 or 5 floors. It was a law firm, I remember. Yeah, it's a law firm. You couldn't tell it was a Muslim Aid. Very small at the time. And then from Support Relations, we actually moved from Camden down to Whitechapel because that's where the diaspora community was. Bengali and Pakistanis, mostly being based in East London. The trustees made the decision to move to East London. So the CEO at the time in Camden Town was Ibrahim Sir. We moved to Whitechapel with Ibrahim Sir, and then 2004-05, if I remember correctly, we transitioned to a new organisation, you could say. It was expanding. This is where Brother Saif came in as a CEO, and there was rapid expansion of Muslim Aid. So for 2004-2005, I think it's 2005, Brother Saif came in, and it was rapid expansion of Muslim Aid. We were a team of 5 at the time, and it rapidly grew to 50, to 60, to 70, if I remember correctly, and then transitioning to new offices. Every time there has been an emergency, Muslim Aid somehow landed itself setting up offices. For example, in Sri Lanka, you had the tsunami, there was Indonesia, then you had Iraq. There's so much that happened in terms of every time there's been an emergency, Muslim Aid landed itself in terms of operating in new offices abroad. That was in itself a challenge for us because we weren't used to the sudden transformation from being small to becoming very large at a very rapid pace.
Well, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
What was that like as as one of the smaller, the kind of the foundational team, I guess, going from a very small team rapidly becoming so big, what did that entail on your day-to-day kind of work routine?
It was the unknown.
What does it mean?
Yeah, it was just the unknown, what's going to happen next. It was about job security. Do I have a job role? Where I was actually working support relations, there comes a time when you want to have another challenge, and I actually was on the verge of leaving because of the transformation. Perhaps this is not the work for me in terms of continuing with Muslim Aid. And then the CEO had a one-to-one with every single employee back then. He realised, I'm taking you out of the donations department, I'm going to put you into HR. We've never had HR.
So if I take you back to the question, so what was the shift like for you going from a very small team to something that was so much larger?
A lot of uncertainty, a lot of anxiety. Do I want to continue, because I've got so used to the smaller organisation, smaller family. And then when Saif came in on board, obviously he had aspirations, a vision of expanding the organisation further to what it was. When he had actually carried out the interviews on a one-to-one basis, realised my background, the degree that I did and the teaching, he said, well, I'm going to put you into HR. And we don't even have a HR department, even though my background is social work people, because I love people, and realised, you know what, that's the place you're going to be. So it was a case of either you survive or you don't survive. So I took it as a challenge, and that challenge was setting up the HR department within the UK office. Once I had established all the processes and standardisation, I looked at our country offices. Whatever we had here, we replicated in our country offices. So that is something I'm proud of, to be quite honest with you, and still are. And we're still expanding in terms of making sure our processes and standardisation of our policies and procedures is embedded in country offices, because at the end of the day, you're not just UK focused, you're a global focus. And then we had various challenges after that.
We'll move on to those as we go along.
Yeah.
What motivated you actually to stay committed to the organisation?
It was my dua, because it was a case of, well, I've now made a commitment to Allah that I want to serve you, as in to serve the ummah, to serve the humanity, for my akhirah. But it's a give and take. So at the end of the day, it was a case of, look, Allah's answered my prayers. I can't back down. Despite wherever you go in life, it's going to be another charity. It's the same work that I'm doing, so why not stay with Muslim Aid in terms, that's my commitment. So my commitment was to Allah, to serve the Ummah, and that was going to be at Muslim Aid, and probably retire at Muslim Aid as well.
So you've led many of the Muslim Aid's internal transformation projects. What were the biggest challenges in shifting the organisational culture?
It's when you have rapid expansion, that can be in itself be a challenge, because you have to take the staff along with you, along with the trustees, so that everyone is on board. So the shift was to what we were doing, sadaqah, zakat, small projects, and now want to move into the development sector. Muslim has always been known for humanitarian work, less of the development. So as you progressed, more staff came along in terms of expertise. That culture shift, it was a case of anxiety, not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. So it was just taking everyone along with the journey with you, along the journey with you. So it's a case of just making sure we all made mistakes. You know, hands up to whoever made the mistakes, and obviously by making those mistakes, unfortunately, then we had various issues within MA in terms of scrutiny. The Charity Commission came on board. But when I look back, having Charity Commission come on board actually was a blessing in disguise, because it made us stronger. You can see it as a negative, but I would see it as a positive, because from a compliance perspective, Muslim Aid became much more stronger. And it was a challenge, but it made us much more accountable, much more resilient, and much more accountable to our donors. And now today Muslim Aid is known for its accountability and the most trusted organisation.
How have you worked to embed values such as inclusion and well-being and safeguarding within Muslim Aid?
Training, behaviours. We always say the culture starts at the top. So that starts with your trustees, you start with the leadership team, part of our induction programme. to make sure staff understand our policies and procedures and the kind of work ethics we expect from staff. Whether you're working for a non-Muslim or Muslim organisation does not matter, because you're a Muslim end of the day, and the work ethics have to be the same. So that's what's been embedded from day one with our new employees as part of our induction programme. Just yesterday we had an EDI training session. So that was for both people managers and non-people managers. Again, sometimes human nature, the unconscious biasness, we don't understand. So literally it's consistent awareness, training, behaviours, calling it out when you can, if people are misbehaving, and basically it's just awareness.
And can you share any examples of how some of that training or staff engagement has directly impacted Muslim Aid's external impact or the work that they do?
Sure. So in terms of example, we always say our employees within the organisation are actually your marketeers, your branding. So if your staff are happy with in terms of what Muslim Aid have, so for example, we did a staff engagement survey. Take a step back. So we scored, if I remember correctly, it's 92%, 91% of staff engagement survey. That shows you that how engaged staff are. And that is because it's not just HQ, we're looking at from a global perspective as well. So it was the first time in history in 23, we actually carried out a staff survey. And from whatever the learning was from our staff engagement survey is we actually addressed those issues. And from that, for example, one of the concerns was staff benefits, enhanced maternity and paternity pay. Now, we realised the concerns that people have raised or staff have raised, and therefore we implemented just last year 6 months enhanced maternity pay, first time for a Muslim organisation. Others do give three or four, but we did the benchmarking. But again, charity begins at home. The values start from home. So we said, look, Muslim Aid is a faith-based organisation. Motherhood, fatherhood is very important, because at the end of the day, they are the very people that train your children to become better within society. So therefore, having to give your parents the right forum and that space to raise their children, you will have a better community in the long run. That's a very short, sharp answer, sorry.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you've witnessed Muslim Aid evolve over more than 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
How has the organisation changed in terms of its culture, scope and ways of working?
Accountability, compliant, much more resilient, much more credible. Yes, individuals may dislike the compliance aspect, but as I said, the Charity Commission has taught us, from an Islamic perspective as well, one of our values is excellence. You don't take shortcuts. You work to the best of your ability. So that has been drained into to our staff members. That it goes back to your values.
And how do you think Muslim Aid has managed the balance between emergency relief and long-term development?
It's still trying to. It hasn't actually has that equilibrium as of yet. We're still known as an emergency organisation, but we're working towards long-term development. It's a work in progress still.
And what about its development within the UK, the work that it does?
We do have UK programmes. So, for example, the homeless, obviously this is from an international programme perspective, but the one that stands out is mostly the homeless programmes that we've done in country, and the soup kitchens. Those are the 2 main programmes that we've done in country.
And how has that changed from when Muslim Aid first started?
It was more external, it was more outward looking than inward looking. So as I said, charity begins at home, so you have to look after within your own in terms of the United Kingdom before you're looking external. So therefore, it's in the last, I would say, 10 years that we've looked more inward in terms of, because you've got the social ills in society, how do you face those problems? Tomorrow, it's not my problem, but it will become your problem tomorrow. So that's how we've actually engaged as a community, that there's a lot of social ills in society that we need to address.
And what has Muslim Aid's journey taught you about how Muslim charities excuse me, are perceived in the UK and globally?
As in Muslim Aid?
Yeah.
Muslim Aid. So we've just received one of the most trusted organisations. So that in itself tells you that our donors trust us. Despite being under the Charity Commission radar, alhamdulillah, we were still the most trusted organisation. People gave their donations because of the charity itself, Muslim Aid. So I would say it's well liked. I hope I've answered that question. Yeah.
Now thinking about the challenges and the pressures, and you've mentioned the resilience of the organisation. Muslim Aid has operated during times of political pressure and public scrutiny, some of which you've mentioned already. How has that affected the staff and the internal culture?
More resilient, meaning in terms of we've got to continue with the work. Just yesterday we were discussing the EDL, for example, the riots that you just had. The community that came before us, they had much more difficult time in comparison to us. So in terms of within, just checking on how everyone's coping, just especially with the line manager, just to see the red flags, because obviously with anxiety kicking in with the EDL and other issues that's happening worldwide, just to check in on our staff, how they're doing. So I think in terms of external, you're always going to get that from various newspapers that something happens in Gaza, Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, 9/11, Syria, Yemen, you're in the spotlight. And because we happen to be in countries where we're working in all high-risk countries as well, so you're going to get the spotlight.
What were the hardest moments in your time at Muslim Aid, and how did you and your colleagues overcome them?
The most difficult time was in 2018, 2019 to 2020 when we were going through transformation. This is when we had the Charity Commission on your doorstep for 10 years, and then you had the interim management. It was a case of survival. So do you continue and give up? But that was not who we were. We continued in terms of the challenges. We produced the documentations, making sure that we're compliant. And yes, you want to walk away. They were the most difficult times in terms of then you've got your new leadership, you've got your new board members. There's a variety of things that are happening. That is when you're being tested. And Allah says that, with every difficulty comes ease. And that was always in the back of my mind, that with this difficulty, inshallah, there will come ease. And it was always my father and my husband, actually, who kept emphasizing not to give up, continue, because the grass is not green on the other side as we might expect it to be. Every organisation has its ups and downs, and in Muslim Aid has its ups and downs, and you will, inshallah, you'll come over it. And we did.
Did you ever feel pressure, either within or outside, to adapt your work or policies to meet external expectations?
No, I don't think. I mean, in terms of employment law, there's challenges. You have to abide by the rules and regulations, but not really. I don't think it's externally. Yes, what happens in the outside world in terms of political aspects, there are challenges, especially when you get nasty papers saying nasty things about Muslim Aid, and that in itself has a challenge for Muslim Aid. But no, I can't think of my head right now.
Thinking about the governance and safeguarding and leadership aspects of the organisation, but also the roles that you've had at Muslim Aid.
Mm-hmm.
You've regularly advised and probably deputised for the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
How do you approach executive decision making?
Hikmah, with wisdom, clarity, not to be irrational, talk to others around you, because it's a very lonely place at the top. So if you've got a good team around you and you've got trust, it comes down to trust, to be honest with you. If you have that trust and empathy, you get the support from your colleagues around you. So it's a case of deputising the absence of the CEO, whether the CEO is here or not, really, to be honest with you. Every director or every leadership team member is we're accountable to Allah. So it's not a case of it's work, it's about accountability to Allah. So everybody will have to work to the best of their ability. So that's my take on things. And in deputising the absence of the CEO, again, it's the same understanding that I'm accountable at the end of the day, and I will do the best of my ability to make sure individuals are listened to and we respond on a timely manner to issues that come up.
Safeguarding has become an increasingly important issue for NGOs.
Mm-hmm.
How have you strengthened this area for Muslim Aid?
So we've got a global safeguarding manager and we have focal staff in country offices for safeguarding. We just carried out training sessions in Kenya, so we brought all the heads of programs and safeguarding focal people as well as the meal officers to discuss safeguarding and to discuss the policies and procedures and good practices. So therefore, we really have embedded safeguarding within the organisations in terms of the training and the awareness. Every employee is inducted in safeguarding, whether you're from top to bottom, from trustees as well.
What lessons have you learned about leadership and resilience from working both at board level and executive level?
It's to take the individuals on that journey with you and not to work in isolation. It's when you work in isolation you're going to have problematic, run into problems that is. So if you take the staff along with you as well as your leadership and your trustees and you're open and transparent and not to hide anything, you'll realise that you'll get positive results. It's when we actually begin to not share things and not being transparent or not being accountable, then we're going to land yourself into trouble.
Can you tell me a little bit about what the Director of People, Culture and Services does? What's your role now?
So it's no one day is the same at Muslim Aid. Every day is a challenge. You have last year, alhamdulillah, was a fantastic year in terms of we've got the Director Suite, and then alhamdulillah things are ticking quite nicely. We now got a 5-year strategy. We're going to expand in terms of our programs, and suddenly with the cuts in the institutional funding, it has a huge impact on the organisation once again. So it's a case of like I am Director of People, Culture and Services, but from a financial perspective and financial lens, it has a huge impact on services, because what you tend to do is you tend to cut staff or you cut certain areas, and that has a huge impact on services, because the first thing people tend to do is, we're going to cut services, but end of the day, they're the very people that serve international programs or fundraising teams. So therefore, you have to have a balance. We're just on a workforce strategy. Once again, looking at the workforce, looking at the strategy. Yes, there's a financial cuts. What can we do going forward as an organisation? So what I've been doing in the last 6 months has been looking at the workforce planning once again, because of the institutional cuts. That's having an impact on the organisation. We're looking at making sure our country offices can be more independent and less reliant on the organisation financially. So in terms of right now, we're looking at my team members are going out to country offices to standardise trainings and processes. For example, my IT department, we're going out to Pakistan very soon. We just come back from Kenya in February, and just last year and also we went to Bangladesh. So it's day to day, it's addressing concerns of, currently it's workforce planning right now in terms of the way forward for 2026 to make sure Muslim Aid can continue as an organisation. Yeah.
Over the past 20 years, were there moments when Muslim Aid was challenged by media or government or public perception? And how did your involvement in Muslim Aid, how did you contribute to responding to those challenges?
So my role we have a media department, communication department that address all the concerns when it's in relation to the media. Also we have an in-house lawyer, any concerns that's coming from the media that we address, but as part of the leadership team we're fully aware in terms of what's happening and how we can address those concerns. So we don't address it in the cases individually, whereas it's a forum that you've got a problem that we need to address. We discuss it internally first before it's shared in terms of any press release that goes out to on the media on our website. So in terms of the communication aspects, less of, because we're involved at a certain limit, but then you've got a function that looks at and addresses media issues.
Looking back, what do you consider your proudest contribution to Muslim Aid?
Proudest, as I said, it would be the establishment of the HR department, because it never existed, and standardisation of our policy and procedures globally, whereas country offices obviously used to excuse themselves having HR departments, more focused on other functions and less on IT and HR and safeguarding. So I think my proudest moment is going to be the setting up of the HR department globally as well.
What do you think Muslim Aid's biggest achievement has been in the past 40 years?
I think it's the resilience, it's accountability. So it hasn't just shied away from addressing the concerns that were raised. Again, keep talking about charity commission, but the challenges are coming from left, right and centre, from politics, from your charity commission, from your regulators. But I think the takeaway from Muslim Aid for the 40 years is it's taking accountability for our actions and addressing those issues and making us much more credible in the eyes of your donors and seen as the most resilient and trusted organisation.
And if you could change one thing in your time at Muslim Aid, what would it be?
It's taking the staff on the journey with you, so not to work on isolate. Because sometimes there are times where you work, you think you know what's best. But if you actually engage with others, and that's from the top to the bottom, so in terms of all layers, and get their feedback, especially when you're opening up operations abroad, because we tend to rush to open up offices, but not realising that the challenges as well that comes with expansion of offices. So I think it's taking the staff on that journey with you, and making sure whoever's at the top level, they listen to the concerns that we as the older generation could say, who've been there for years. What will work or will not work. I think the most challenging what I've experienced so far has the old versus the new. Unfortunately, that's just a common. It's normal because you've been there for so long. You know what works, what doesn't work. It's not a case of like, you've not moved from Muslim Aid. Well, actually, I know what's happening in the outside world because I'm connected with the outside world. I'm with the CD forums, director forums with the external organisation, so I know what goes on in the outside world. Yes, I've been here for many years at Muslim Aid, but when you attend those functions, those forums, you know what works for Muslim Aid, because Muslim Aid in itself is a beast on its own. Yeah, we're individuals, we're very unique the way we are set up. It's been 40 years, we've had our ups and downs. So I think my learning is to take everyone on that journey and not to work in isolation, and just making sure everybody's engaged with the processes and the changes.
Thank you. What do you see as Muslim Aid's legacy for future generations of staff and volunteers?
Service, trust. I think the legacy has. So I'm looking at from 40 years. It's because we're here to serve the Ummah, we're here to serve humanity. So I'm looking from my perspective. I see my work at Muslim Aid as a duty, not as an employment. It's not a career, because you can have careers elsewhere. But if you see it as a duty, it's an amana that Allah's put upon us, and having that duty, and it's an amana, and you're accountable for it. Inshallah, you'll get the barakah, because the rizq come from Allah, and the results come from Allah as well. So for Muslim Aid, I think it's a duty upon us all to serve the Ummah, and by serving the Ummah, you're serving your hereafter at the same time. You're in the best of both worlds. So that's how I see it as.
How do you hope Muslim Aid will continue to evolve in the next decade?
I think, once again, we've tried. We don't want to be like the rest, because we always emphasise we're not in competition with anyone. Muslim Aid is unique in terms of what it can and cannot do. We've got to listen to our staff members, and that I'm referring to both for the staff, the leadership team and the trustees, because sometimes, we as human beings, we come and go. And there are times when individuals come on board, they've got ideas, but they'll be here for 5 years and then we'll move on. But I think what individuals need to see is what is in the best interest of the Ummah in terms of providing a service. It's not your idea, because your idea may fail tomorrow and then somebody else will have to pick up the pieces. So I think we as human beings need to think long-term rather than short-term results. And that's something I would emphasize whoever comes to Muslim Aid in the future and for the legacy to continue is just think of long-term and not short-term fixes, because if we all can have a short-term fix and get the results, but it's the long-term that's going to have a huge impact on the organisation.
Thank you so much. How's your time at Muslim Aid shaped your understanding of what it means to work in the humanitarian services?
It's a huge accountability, and I always emphasise, I think when I was reading the hadith, this is when I first came into Muslim Aid, and I think it was Umar radiallahu anha who had the candle lit up, and he was utilising it for his personal means, and he blew the candle. Ever since then, having read that hadith, it really hit me hard that we need to take it very seriously. When you're working for a charity, there's a huge accountability on our head. So every penny that we spend, we're accountable for it. So I think that's what's made me aware that whoever comes into the organisations, it's not a career, it's not a job, it's a duty, it's a service to the ummah, and that service to the ummah comes with a huge accountability on the Day of Judgment. And if we have that back in our mind, we'll be very cautious in terms of how we spend donors' money, and that's always been my take up when I do my inductions as well, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share, something that I might have missed, a memory or maybe a lesson or a message for the future?
Life is a challenge, yeah, and those challenges make you become much more resilient, much more accountable and much more credible. And that has been my journey at Muslim Aid, that I have encountered challenges. Those challenges have made me much more resilient. You don't give up so easily, you continue. Because people often say to me, oh my God, 24 years, how on earth did you do it? And I said, look, end of the day, where I am today is because Allah has chosen me. And I think that sometimes we tend to forget, because to do this service, you've been chosen by Allah. That means if you've been chosen by Allah, you're accountable on the Day of Judgment at the same time. So you're accountable for your actions. So if you have those words in the back of your head about accountability, then you are cautious as an individual in terms of how you treat the assets of the organisation and how you serve the ummah at large as well. So that's my take up, that life is a challenge, nothing's going to be very easy. Those challenges bring you, those challenges make you as an individual. So I always say to Allah, Allah, what you have given me is from you, it's not mine, it's coming from Allah, and I thank Him for it, and I will continue inshallah the work.
Alhamdulillah, thank you.